Welcome to the Chronoforce Pro Additional Ideas. As a reminder, we may call it Chronos for short to save some time. In this section, we're going to go over multiple ways in which you can use Chronos, because you should probably already have a little understanding of how Chronos works. Plus, we're going to be assuming that you may know some of these routines that we're going to be talking about, and we'll also be telling you where you can find more information on them. For those reasons, we're going to be cutting those explanations a little bit shorter. That way, this instructional video is not 10 or 20 hours long. Again, after we finish with this section, we're going to go over all of the different settings that Chronos has to offer for you. But before we get there, let's get into the additional ideas. Magic Square is technically a classic, not just in Magic, but also in mentalism. And Chronos is going to help you achieve that effect. You're going to have multiple ways in which you can perform the Magic Square. And if you don't know what the Magic Square is, it is basically a 4x4 grid that you fill in numbers, and then the corners will add up to a specific number, but also every single road, horizontally, vertically, diagonally, the corners, the inside circle, absolutely everything. No matter how you add up those numbers, it's always going to be the same number, or the chosen number. Now, if you have Chronos, you can actually set, kind of like how we did the book test or the trick with the Swindle of Swords with the order of the cards. You can use that same style of forcing the numbers with the spread. And all you do is you set in all of the numbers of your Magic Square previously. As your spectators stop the timer, you can then very easily just fill in the squares, and all of those numbers are going to match. If you force them the number 42, you can then use the presentation of the meaning of the universe. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just do a simple Google search and you'll definitely know. If you're familiar with performing the Magic Square, then knowing that Chronos can force either all the numbers or just a single number or just a few of the numbers, if you have any of those methodologies for the Magic Square, I guarantee you that right now your mind is flowing with ideas of how you can implement Chronos in your current existing Magic Square. If you don't have a Magic Square routine, very simply, look one up. You can even look one up for the number 42 like we discussed, and then you just force every single number on the Magic Square, on Chronos, and then your Magic Square will be perfectly filled in, and you now have a different magic trick that you can do with Chronos. Another classic of mentalism is the mental epic routine. If you don't know what that is, you basically predict 3 random things that your spectator can think of. Usually the downside of mental epic routines is that you actually have to force an object. And it sometimes tends to be like the force of a card, using crosscut force, or maybe a classic force, and all the other options that you have, like, oh, think of a name, think of a country. And then so you're getting the name, you're getting the country, and then the last object is a card. It tends to be a little bit lower or not as impressive as the rest. So with Chronos, you can actually force either the total time, you can force the add up of the seconds with the milliseconds, or you can just force the milliseconds. But the way in which you can get this number is very, very cool, because you can use the stopwatch in the middle of your routine or as the premise of your routine to see how long it's going to take for everyone to think of the first item and then the second item. And then once you get to the third item, it's almost like you just had the thought that, okay, you know what, rather than having you think of something else, since you've been keeping track and keeping the time, why don't you just pause and we'll use whatever milliseconds or whatever seconds plus milliseconds or however it is you want to force that number. And that's how you're getting your force. So this way you don't have to force a card or force something that is not going to be as impressive because you have some sort of access to it. The spectator is the one that's actually making that third selection, which feels super free, and it also feels like it was influenced by the previous choices and how long those choices took to take. Very briefly, let's go over what a simple one-ahead mental epic routine would look like using chronos. Let's say the first thing we're going to get your spectators to think of is a person's name. And for this example, let's say they're thinking of Mario. Now, your audience is going to believe that you're trying to get their thought that they're thinking of, which is a name. They have no idea that you're going to use that stopwatch later on in the routine. So what you're actually going to write here is your forced number, your forced time that you're going to be using later in the routine. Whatever you set, let's say you set it to 20 seconds and 15 milliseconds. That's your force at the end, so then that's what you would write here. Now, you put it down, your audience is going to believe that you wrote down the person's name that they're thinking of. So when you end up asking them, okay, so I've already committed to the name that I think you're thinking of, let everybody here know what that name is. They're going to say Mario. Here you act excited and you're like, okay, great. Let's move on. I need you to think of a country, let's say. What your audience believe is that you wrote down Mario here. In reality, we're using the one-ahead principle so that now when we're going to talk to spectator number 2, the audience and they think they are thinking of a country, which they are. Let's say they're thinking of France, but we don't know that yet. So what we do know is that spectator number 1 is thinking of Mario. So that is exactly what I'm going to write as I pretend that I'm writing down a country. So think of the country. Really, you just write down Mario. You place that down. Now, because you've committed to the country, you don't have the pen on you, you already put the card down. Now you can very easily ask the spectator, okay, go ahead, let everybody here know what's the country that you're thinking of, and they're going to say whatever it is, in this case, France. So now everybody knows they're thinking of France. You can act a little excited here, like, oh, great. And then you'll move on. And I want you to think of, you know what? You've been helping us keeping track of the time. Why don't you just press stop at any time at all that you want, and we'll use the milliseconds. But before you do, let me, boom, you pretend to write here the milliseconds that you think they're going to stop on. In reality, you're actually writing France, or whatever the second spectator told you. So if you now keep track of what's going on, you have the forced time that they even haven't pressed stop on the table, plus the name, plus the country. So now, when your spectator decides to press stop, you ask them, what was the time that you stopped on? Of course, we know that we're using chronos to force it. And now when we turn over all of these cards, every single piece of information that the spectator thought of and you wrote down before they said it out loud is going to be printed on those cards. If you have been following along with this example, you'll see that we have one card on top of each other. All you really have to do in order for them to be in the right order, because right now we have name, country, and time, or at least that's what they think. In reality, we have time, name, and country. So in order to make it fit the way it needs to be, we just need to take that bottom or the first card and place it last. Everything else should now fit once we turn it over. And then you'll have everything in order. But in reality, you don't really have to. All you could do is just pick up the cards and mix them in your hand as you're looking at them. And that's going to fly by just as well. We're now going to take a look at how you can use chronos to enhance a little bit your Korodsuke routine by Max Maven, which, by the way, he's recently passed, so may he rest in peace. This is an amazing routine. If you're not familiar with it, what basically happens is you have a couple, let's say, white balls in a bag and only a single black one. Your spectators randomly grab a ball and you're able to tell who has the black ball hidden in their hand. So what you could do is you could actually predict the time it took you to either find the ball or just a specific black ball. And I'm going to show you different ways in which you can use a brand new setting we haven't taken a look at until this moment. So in order to gain access of this setting, what we're going to do is we're going to triple click the world clock to go into our settings. We're going to navigate all the way down where you'll see for manual input total mode. And then right underneath, we have force on. I have lap selected, and then I have the keep force and change others on lap tap. This is going to be incredibly easy to understand once we do the routine. So we're gonna open it up here. And now when we start, what you could do is you could give the phone to one of your spectators so that they are going to time how long it takes you to sense or get a feeling for each one of your spectators. Let's say you have 5 spectators. So every time you move on to another spectator, whoever's in charge of the phone, all they need to do is press the lap button. And that's going to create almost like a little log of how long it took you specifically with that one particular person. There's one more thing you just need to do before we get started with the routine, and that is set up your force. So we're going to go into our manual input by triple tapping the alarm clock. And now here, this is going to be your actual force. So let's say you want to force the number 24. Okay, this is what you would write down on a little business card as your prediction for the kicker ending of this routine. So we're going to enter it, and then we're going to use the total. Okay, so we're going to use the green total. You're now going to hand the phone to your spectator, and you're going to let them know that you're going to be sensing each and one of the spectators to try to find that black ball. Every time you move from one spectator to another, they are to keep track of that amount of time, and the easiest way to do that is by just pressing lap. And then your stopwatch is going to actually mark each one of your spectators. Let me show you exactly what it looks like, and you're going to start. Just remember that you let the time that you have set up pass so that the forcing can begin. So now you get the sense of your first spectator. Once you move on to the next, you can remind them, okay, make sure you press lap. They'll press lap. And then right underneath, you'll see that it says 13 seconds and 11 milliseconds. That technically adds up to 24. Now, your spectators don't know this, so there's no reason to bring attention to it whatsoever. You're then, after you get through your second spectator, you press lap. And now we have 19 seconds and 5, which if we add 19 plus 5 is 24. We'll do it again real quick here. 7 plus 17 is 24. We'll do it one more time. Now we have 420, and then we just need to do it one more time if we have 5 spectators, and we get 13, 11. Now we're going to pause, and I'm actually glad this happened, because if we're using this setting here, there is a possibility that if you take the same amount of seconds, then the milliseconds are going to have to match as well, because they have to add up to the total that you have set. So 13 plus 11 is going to be 24. Now, they don't know that we're going to be using those numbers at all whatsoever. Here you have a choice of either revealing the person's who has the black ball, or you could actually come over, and because you now know which spectator has the ball, all you have to do is press on the lap that has the number of the spectator who has the black ball. So let's say in this case is spectator number 4. All you have to do, and if you notice, all other numbers except the number 4, which happens to be green right now, you'll see that they will all change. And the only one that stays to add up to 24 is that 4th lap, which is 4 plus 20 equals 4. So here, you could now ask your spectator, how long did the first spectator take? And then they'll say 13 seconds and 58 milliseconds. Now you ask them, and if we were to add up that, how much would it be? It's going to be 71, which is a random number. And then they can do that with even all other numbers. Now, the 4th one is the one we actually care about, because that's the one that we predicted later. So once you reveal the black ball, you can then, as a kicker ending, reveal that you also knew how long it was going to take you to find that ball from your prediction. But what if you don't want all of the other numbers to change except for the chosen one? What if you want to do the opposite? It's very simple. We'll go back into the settings by triple tapping the world clock. We'll scroll down, and now we're going to turn on tap on lap to force. So we're going to just press that, and you'll see that your settings change, and that's because those features are not available in this tap on lap to force. So now when we go back, we can triple tap the alarm clock. We'll set once again the 24, we'll enter, and we'll use the total. So now you'll see that when we start here, everything is exactly the same, but now when we click on lap, it's actually the time. So you'll see that it's 4:57. It does not add up to 24, and we'll do that 5 times like this, so you can see exactly what happens. So we'll stop it, and now here you can see that these are the actual times that it took. And whichever one you want to force, once again, all you have to do is just tap on the lap, and let's say in this case, once again, let's do 4 to keep it consistent. We'll tap on 4 and just watch how it changes to our force time. So now it is 1 plus 23 equals 24. So whether you want to have all of them change except the one, or if you want to have the actual times and then change the one that you need to after you have the information, you have all of those options available for you. Now, we're explaining this feature in the context of the Koretsuka routine so you can very easily understand it. But by no means is this the only way in which you can use these features. I'm sure by now your mind is racing with ideas of how else you can implement these great features that Kronos has to offer. This project is full with classics and how they can be applied to Kronos. In this case, we're going to talk about the add a number. So Kronos can actually function as an add a number pad. If you're not familiar with this, you basically have a notepad and you hand it to your spectators and they all write down a specific number, whatever number they want. At the end, you take all of the numbers that your spectators have selected, you have somebody add them up, and you can actually predict the sum of all of those numbers. So Kronos is going to allow you to do just that, and incredibly fast and easy. All you have to do is go into your timer here. So we triple click that and we're going to go into our extra manual input settings where you can find the spread. And in this case, we're going to be using the addition. So I'm going to click on addition. This mode is going to allow you to force numbers up to 900. So you could also even use this if you want to force, let's say, a page on a big book like the Bible. I don't know. So let's say that the number we're trying to force is, to make it super easy, 345. So we're going to do 3, 4, 5. And the beauty of it is that when you click enter, it's now going to have some numbers underneath. These numbers is the amount of spectators that you're going to use. So if you want to use 4 spectators, you're going to click on 4. If you want to use 6 spectators, you click on 6. And what Kronos is going to do is it's actually going to divide the 345 into that many spectators so that you can force those numbers to those amount of spectators. And when you add those totals together, you're going to get whatever number you input it there. In our case, 345. So I'm going to click on 4. And as you can see, Kronos automatically does all of the work for us. We have now 93, 89, 70, and another 93. So if you want to save it as milliseconds, you can do that. Or if you want to save it as total, you can do that as well. To make it super simple, we're going to go with the milliseconds. So here, once again, you'll see that now when we start it and we go past the 3 seconds, remember that's what I have it set up as, we'll stop. We're going to get our first number, 93. So if we were to add 93 to 89, plus 70 plus should be another 93. When you add all those four numbers together, you're going to get your force number 345, allowing you to use Chronos as an add a number pad. Now let's talk about how you can use Chronos to reveal information. Let's say you're doing a pin reveal and you already have the information of your pin. So you already know your spectator's pin. Rather than just revealing it, you can tell them that you're gonna see how long it takes you to figure it out, even though you already know it. And what you're actually doing is inputting the pin number as either a full-time total reveal on your Chronos, or as an addition, or you can even do it in 2 blocks. And I'll tell you how in a second. But all you do is you pretend you have a notepad and somebody's going to start the timer and they think you're trying to get the time, or you're trying to write, sorry, not the time, the pin code on the notepad. In reality, you're just writing down something like down to the last millisecond, or something that refers to the specific time. That way, when you tell them, okay, I think I got it, your spectators are going to stop it, and then you tell them for the first time, reveal what was the pin code, they will reveal it, and when you turn it over, they're not going to see it. They're going to see that it says down to the last millisecond, which then everybody's attention is going to go to the phone, and they're going to see that it matches the seconds and the milliseconds, or perfectly the time, or however it is you want to do that force of that specific pin code that you have. I will mention that if you have something that is above 60, so let's say the pin code is 8200, right? There's no way you can force 80 seconds. So in this case, you would be needing to do 2 stops. So and you would be using the milliseconds. So the first time you stop, you can tell them, okay, I think I'm halfway there, pause. Remember the milliseconds that you paused at. Those are going to be the 82 or the ones that are very high. You then do it again, and once you complete supposedly the pin code, they're going to have now another millisecond that when you put those two together, it'll be the 82 and whatever it is we said as well. And then that's going to be revealing their pin code. Now I'm just using the pin code as an example, but it could be anything you want. Another way in which you can use Chronos to reveal information is to actually have a big finale at the end, where maybe throughout your entire show, you're actually getting your spectators to time you. Certain routines during certain actions, you can structure it so everything makes sense for you. And you have somebody writing down all of the times. Maybe you're timing yourself, or you need to see how long it takes you to get through all these routines. Then at the end, you're going to have what's called a cryptex routine, or a cryptex reveal, I should say. What this is when you first see it, you just see numbers. It just looks like random numbers. Now, these numbers are actually going to match everything that you forced during your whole entire routine. But as an extra kicker, what the cryptex lets you do is once you turn those numbers upside down, it's actually going to reveal a word. Now, this word could be the company that you're working for, could be the CEO's name for the company that you're working for, or it could just be a random reveal that you want to have at the end of your show, which then goes to pretty much tell your audience that if anything had taken just 1 millisecond or 1 second more, everything would crumble and nothing would have worked. So we're just trying to show you how you can use Chronos to enhance any reveal that you have. And even using this concept of the cryptex reveal, you can even structure a whole entire show behind keeping track of time. Now we're going to take a look at how we can use Chronos to force a phone number. So this is going to open a lot of possibilities for you. The first one is if you have an accomplice, you can give them information, or they can see information from your performance. They can excuse themselves, And then once you generate their phone number using Chronos, a spectator is going to call that person and they're going to be able to reveal the information. You may notice some similarities with what we're trying to accomplish with the app, The Stranger. Now, we're not going to go into how that app works, which is fantastic, by the way, and I highly, highly recommend it. It is an amazing app with tons of possibilities. But what this is going to let you do is do a similar style of effect where you're going to be able to reveal some sort of information that your spectator already knows. And we got to this phone number randomly using Chronos. So if we wanted to do this, what you could do is triple tap on the timer to go into our extra manual input setting. And then you'll see that it has the spread already on there. Now, if we click on the value, all you have to do is now input the phone number that you want to force here. Let's say it is 916-778-4356. Hopefully that is a phone number. Now, you have the option to save it as milliseconds or total. When it comes to a lot of numbers, I prefer milliseconds to get through it quickly. And check it out. It's telling me here you have to set at least one value or press the comma to validate. What that actually means is that I just left it up there. And you just have to press enter. Chronos is going to do all of the work for you, dividing your phone number into as many different numbers that you need. And then once you do save as milliseconds, now you're ready to begin. So you just press start, and then once you have your settings ready for the force, you'll see that we're going to have that 9-1, which is the beginning of the phone, start there, and then it'll be 6-7, and then you're going to be able to get all of the numbers for that digit. What you could have at this point is have somebody else with their phone and they are typing in the digits as they show up. Feel free to involve as many spectators as you want so everybody feels like they contributed to the construction of the phone number. And then once you have the complete phone number, all you have to do is have the person call and the trick is going to be done. Now, another thing that you could do if you don't even want to place the call, what you could do is, let's say you're performing for a specific company, you could force their phone number and now it'll be up on display for everybody to see. One simple idea just to get you started with this concept could be to have a spectator or have somebody pick a specific restaurant or pick a specific place, and then with Chronos, you actually reveal the phone number of that place, whether it's a pizza restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, or maybe a hardware store, or anything you want. With this said, once again, it does not have to be the phone number. It could be the actual house number, or it could be somebody's birthday, or it could be any type of information that involves numbers, like a zip code or anything you want. So feel free to explore with this idea as much as you can, and I'm sure you're going to have a ton of fun with it. I would like to remind you, once again, if you like this idea, this concept of the phone number, I highly recommend the Stranger app. You will not be disappointed. In fact, you're going to love it. Now, let's talk about peaking with Chronos. So not only can you force numbers, multiple numbers, sequences of numbers, you're also going to be able to peak information and be able to reveal it either in that same routine or, like we prefer, later on during your performance to really separate the way you obtain that information to when you're revealing the information, hiding that method even further. So the way in which you're going to be accessing your peak section is the same way we've been accessing everything, by triple tapping a special section on your app. And that place is the actual numbers up here. So your actual time, if you triple tap that, you'll see that we have a section here with birthday selected. And I can also click on the other side and we have the stack. We're going to start with the birthday. In this peak section, Chronos is actually showing you the times that were selected, the last 10 stops of that watch. Now, due to technical restrictions, the actual forced milliseconds will not show up. What will show up is the actual milliseconds. But you're going to be able to use either of those numbers to input them into the day, as you see there, with the / month. So 2 digits for the day, 2 digits for the month. And for instance, if I were to click on 7, just press 7, you'll see that it gets populated up there. And then we'll click on 1 and it'll populate on the month. Here, Chronos is thinking that it's January 7th. Okay, now it's also, you may have noticed that right at the bottom, it's letting us know that January 7th is a Capricorn. So you can very easily do a zodiac reveal at this point or later on in your routine after you've received your peak information. The other incredible thing that it's letting you know here is you see it says P and then Saturday 12. What that means is previous. And it's referring to the birthday. So it's been 12 days since their last birthday. And the box underneath, it's next. So the N stands for next, and it's going to be, their birthday will land on a Sunday, and there is 354 days until their next birthday. So you could use any of those pieces of information to reveal later. Now, we're also going to show you how you can obtain the information, do an effect, secretly get your peak, and then use that information later on in your set. And the way you're going to do that is very easily by just having your spectators tell them, here, for instance, like my birthday is November 20th. So that's 11/20. Your birthday is going to contain those numbers too. I just want you to think of your lowest number. In my case, it's 11. So what I would try to do is stop the seconds on 11 and see if I can actually do that. So you would have them hold the phone, and then all they have to do is try to stop it on whatever number they're thinking of. So here you'll see, boom, and I'm able to stop it on 11. You ask them whether they were able to do it. They should be able to because it's fairly simple. If they don't, just simply ask them how far away were they. They should be 1 second. Ask them if they were too early or too late, and then just remember this information because you're going to need to use it later. Now, you tell them, now I want you to think of the other number. In my case, it's 20 from November 20th. So then I'm going to try to stop the seconds on that other number. In my case, 20. So when I see the 20, I'll press stop, and I was able to do it. Once again, it's fairly simple to do. We're then going to tell them, okay, well, that was pretty easy to do, right? So now let's try to see if you can stop that number on the millisecond. So go for that first number again and try to get that millisecond. So I would try to stop on 11. Here, I'm going to boom, and I got close, 18, but not quite 11. So now here we're showing them how difficult it is to actually do that. We're now going to have them try it with the other number, in my case 20. So we'll go here and there, 76. I was way off. But now at this point, we can actually have this number be a forced number. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. I just want you to understand the peak section first. But know that this number could have been forced, and now that is the number that you can actually reveal. So you can tell them, reset. There's no way you could know anything. Think of the number. Maybe you could have predicted the number. You can reveal that number. In reality, when we go into our peak section, you're going to see that the last and the second are the ones they were attempting to get that number on the millisecond. And then the 3 and the 4 is going to actually be their actual birthday. Now, if you don't know, for instance, like because I see 20, there is no month that is 20. So I already know that that is going to be the day. So I would click on the 20 to fill in the day, and then I would click on the 4 which is the fourth time ago that we did the stopping. Right here is going to be 11, and now we have November 11th at the top, letting you know that it's a Scorpio, it's been 60 days since their birthday, and it's going to be 306 days until their next birthday. Now, this information you can remember, you have access to it whenever you want, and you can reveal it however you see fit. But what if it is 11/7? So that could be November 7th, or it could also be July 11th. So one simple way in which you can know which one it is just by asking your spectator, now, was your lowest number the month or the day? Once they tell you, you already know how to fill in your information here, and it's going to give you the proper reveals that you need. Now, if you want to force that last number, that's technically going to happen on the fourth stop, right? Because the first two, they're actually inputting their month and day, and then the other two, they're trying to get their month and day in the milliseconds. So the way you do that is by going into the world clock, triple clicking, you go into the settings app, and what you'll do is you want to then have the force on stop. We're going to change that number from 3 to 4 because we want it to happen on the fourth, not after 4 seconds, but we actually want it to happen on the fourth stop. And I should actually mention that this is already not right, because what's going to happen is it's going to force after 4 stops. And because we want the force to happen on the fourth go, we actually have to change that back to 3. Once you put it back to 3, they're going to stop it 4 times. So let me show you what that looks like. We're going to go back, and now we have to set our force. And we're going to go into our manual input right there, and let's say we want to force the number, I don't know, 75, okay? That way we know for sure that it's not going to be their day. Nobody's born on a 75. So we're going to enter, and then we'll use the milliseconds. Now, once they start, remember here, this is going to be now the first stop, okay? Then they're going to do it again, and this is going to be the second stop. Here, they're going for their actual second number on the seconds. Then you're going to tell them to try it on the milliseconds. So they're going to try it on the milliseconds. That's the third stop, which now means the next time will be the actual force. So now when they try to get that second one and they'll stop, you'll see that it forces that 75, which is now going to match whatever prediction it is you have. As you can see, now from here, you actually have some sort of reveal, because you can just tell them, okay, well, you didn't get it. You got some sort of other random millisecond. I want you to think of that number and keep it in mind, okay? Now, at that point, you can reveal that information. You get a reaction. They're going to forget that they've done this as you move on to perform another trick. Whenever you feel like the moment is right, you can actually reveal the zodiac sign, which is absolutely strong, or you can reveal, for instance, you can say, I don't know, I'm getting the number 135. Does this mean anything to you? And they're going to be like, no, I don't think that means anything to me. I don't know why. I feel like there's something attached to this with you specifically. How many days until your birthday? And if they actually have their phone set up with their birthday, they have an iPhone, they can ask Siri that, and Siri is going to give you that same number as well. If not, you could just simply ask Google Assistant or Siri or anything, how many days until November 20th, and then they're going to give you that answer as well. So it's a very simple way to get that number to be provided for you without having to do all types of crazy calculations. As you can see, there's so much information that Kronos is giving you so that you can then reveal it in whichever way you see fit. As a reminder, it is also telling you the day of their actual birthday that just passed and that is going to come. We're now going to move on to still the peak section, but just we're going to enter into the stack section, which is super simple to use once you already understand the birthday. You'll see that you once again have a log of the times. All you have to do is tap any number you want. So for instance, let's say I tap the number 9, and you'll notice that underneath you have, it says mnemonica, 9 of spades, Aronson, Queen of spades, and Seis-Stebbins, 8 of diamonds. I will mention that the Seis-Stebbins is thinking that you're starting, the first card on top is the Ace of spades. So that is how it's getting the order for the Seis-Stebbins. It's also reminding you of what number you selected right at the top. So you could very easily have one of those numbers that they have used in the time. And let's say you have a deck off to the side. Of course, it's in whichever stack you're currently using. They got to that number in whichever way you see fit for your routine. But the idea is that you don't have to have any of those cards memorized, because Kronos is just going to provide that card for you. Whether you want to use that card to just reveal it where it's at in the deck, or because you have to force it on them so that you can then do something with it, maybe in another deck or for another routine. Just know that you have all of those possibilities available to you right here, included with the mnemonica stack, Aronson, and the Seis-Stebbins, as well as your birthday. Well, not your birthday, but you know what I mean. I will mention it doesn't also have to be done with the birthday. If you're doing a corporate show, you could use the day that the company was established, or any of those things, and then what you would be revealing is not how many days until their birthday, but how many days until their anniversary, or something of that nature. As you can see, you don't have to just use Kronos to force things. You can also use it to receive or peek information. We wanted to make sure that you guys had a complete app that works in synergy with all of the things that a mentalist or a magician would need. You can also use Kronos to force a specific item. Now, let's say you have a list of